Through the generous contribution of Dr. Lewis's family, we're very fortunate to be able to share with you these timeless recordings of Dr. M. W. Lewis, a self-realized American yogi. Dr. Lewis was Paramahansa Yogananda's first American disciple and dearest personal friend. The wisdom Dr. Lewis imparts through these teachings will give you a dynamic and practical insight into the ancient science of yoga as taught by Paramahansa Yogananda. This lecture's title is Desire, the Tyrant of the World, and was recorded in San Diego, California on November 27, 1955.
Within each and every one of us is the divine spark, but it takes sometimes somebody to bring it out. It takes a channel to bring it out. And if God selects each and every one of us, or any of us, to be His channel, we are indeed blessed. So going on now, the subject this morning I see is desire, the tyrant of the world. He must be a terrible fellow. And he is. Because he keeps us tied to that outward consciousness which is not real and prevents us from knowing the reality within us as the one eternal presence of God. That's why he's the tyrant, for two reasons. First, because it is desire which keeps us in outward consciousness. It is desire which leads to action, every action. And with that action, brought about by the desire for the object of senses, comes attachment. And that attachment is what is the cause of further desires. And there's no end to them, for one simple reason, that desire is not satisfied in the object of senses. It is not satisfied there at all. The fulfillment of desire does not come through the objects of senses, but from the heart within. And that's why he is such a tyrant, because he deludes us and keeps us in outward consciousness and away from the real consciousness within. Let us just consider a few days ago we had a celebration in which there was much turkey consumed, I presume, and those people who were attached to the turkey, they did not satisfy their desires because they are just either waiting for Thanksgiving to come again, that they get at that turkey, or else they say, no, we must have that turkey, let's have it next week again, or the week after it's used up. Because it is that desire. Because we have put our attention to the object of desire, the turkey. It is that which creates further desire, and there's no end to it. Whereas if we had turned our attention inward as we ate turkey or anything, and felt the giver in our hearts, that desire would have been satisfied, and there would have been no more laying up of further desires. Remember, desire causes action. Desire causes action. And action leads to fulfillment of desire in the object of sense. And as there can be no fulfillment or satisfaction of desire in outward things, we are bound to come again and again, be reborn, until we realize that the desire is not satisfied in outward things, but in God within. And so this desire causes action, and by action we are kept in delusion. That's the important thing, the delusion of outward consciousness. That is the thing. That's the worst thing, because delusion leads us to ignorance. Ignorance is the greatest sin. Why? Because it prevents us from knowing what we are. Children of God, we are the soul instead of outward consciousness, and it prevents us from enjoying the freedom of the soul. This is most wonderfully depicted in the Bhagavad Gita, this desire, this tyrant, as it is called in our subject, the tyrant of the world. Let me read just a word or two from the Bhagavad Gita. This old ancient scripture, handed down from the ancient rishis of India, in which we find the same eternal truths as we find in our own Bible, thou canst not serve two masters. So, if we serve desire, we cannot serve God. So we read in the third discourse, the 37th verse, it is desire, begotten by the quality of motion, outward consciousness, all consuming, all polluting. Know thou this as our foe here on earth, because it is desire that keeps us attached to things of this earth. And that attachment leads to further desire, because the desire cannot be fulfilled with the objects of senses. So, the Gita speaks of it, know thou this as our foe here on earth. As a flame is enveloped by smoke, as a mirror by dust, as the embryo is wrapped by the amnion, so this transcendental eternal consciousness, our soul, is enveloped by this tyrant desire. It is kept subjugated. Our soul is tied, bound by desire, because desire keeps us attached to outward consciousness, which means the desires do not end, they have to be fulfilled. Therefore, each one of us has to keep coming over and over. There's no end to it, to try and fulfill that desire, when really the desire is fulfilled by simply turning to the heart within, satisfying your desires not by objects of senses, but by God within you as the love in your heart. Now going on, enveloped is the wisdom by this constant enemy of the wise in the form of desire, which is insatiable as a flame. You cannot satisfy it. You get one automobile and you think, this is it.